Hi, hello guys, my name is Mia Marie and you are currently watching my Synastry Compatibility series where I go through all the 12 signs, sun signs, and how they get along. Now, as a general disclaimer, we reference so much more than just the sun sign for compatibility, but the importance of the sun and understanding someone's sun sign and accepting it and supporting it is that the sun sign describes the motives, the behaviors, the experiences that contribute to someone's sense of sanity. So we're not talking so much about what someone needs emotionally or how they flirt or what makes them great in bed, all of those very, romantic topics. We're talking about how to support someone's vitality, someone's sense of self, and someone's healing human journey. So keep in mind that this is just a gentle introduction, and you can get so much more by booking a session with me or another fantastic astrologer. Sun and Scorpio, these people come into Earth with a sole motive of transforming lower desires into higher will by being a spiritual warrior. And they often do this by examining pain. Now, I heard this quote today and it made me think of Scorpio, irregardless of gender, but it was saying that you can either play victim or play the villain. And I think this is beautiful Scorpio energy because oftentimes they find themselves being a depository for the shittiest human experiences. It's almost like they've come to wrestle with the worst of humanity, especially as it relates to emotions. And so oftentimes they are victim, but you rarely ever hear a Scorpio characterize themselves as the victim. Instead, they take on the villain mentality. Now, I'm not saying all Scorpios are villains, but that was just something that I heard today that made me think of them. Scorpio is the second water sign, so it's socially oriented. And so it has this desire to establish a cohesive social order. It recognizes what needs to be eliminated and it just slices it at the knees. If you've ever had a Scorpio boss, they can be cutthroat. They often have some kind of relationship with inheritance or shared resources. They often do things with a partner, and it's because they rule the house of intimacy and shared resources. At least in their younger years, Scorpio is very afraid of being ostracized or socially alienated for liking or partaking in things that would be considered taboo or atypical. But this is like something they totally get off to. Scorpio offers love in a really interesting but uncomfortable way. I mean, true to form, right? And I'll use an example. So a Scorpio hasn't seen a friend in a year, and they're so excited to reconnect with someone, and they meet them in person and they recognize that it looks like their friend has aged 10 years. And in this 1 year, they've gained 40 pounds. A Scorpio is going to say, "Oh my God, you've gained so much weight. Are you okay?" Now, society would look at that and say, that's rude and inappropriate. And in a Scorpio's mind, it's like, well, that's truthful. Are you okay? And that's the point that I want to highlight, is they nurture and nourish the soul by pointing out something that everybody can see, but no one wants to talk about because it's so uncomfortable. And then the friend goes into it and they start talking about this terrible divorce and how they were betrayed and how they're dealing with trauma. And Scorpio sits there unfazed, totally supportive. And by the end of the conversation, the friend has a new awareness of their overall mental well-being. Now, when Scorpio shares their perspective, they're not meaning to cause harm. They're essentially saying, I'm paying attention to you. And after that conversation ends, they've done something profound. They've used the truth to set their friend free from a situation that was not serving them. They nourished the soul, but not in the way that we would expect or in a way that makes us feel coddled. Scorpio does not coddle. And that's an act of healing. Scorpios are healing. They do the surgical, dirty work where they cut people open and they fix what's broken. They fix what's not working. A second example, and I swear this all builds to a point, so stick with me. A second example is that these parents are taking their young child who's a Scorpio to see the child's grandfather who's in the hospital, very ill. The child goes in, observes the condition of grandpa, has the gut instinct and feeling. The parents get back in the car and they drive the child home. On the way home, the child says, wow, grandpa's really sick. He's going to die soon. Mom slams on the brakes, looks back and says, don't say that. A taboo subject. Now, a year later, grandpa passes away. The child was right. That gut instinct, that feeling was correct. But what the child learns in that moment is that what they think, what they see, what they feel, the truth, when they speak the truth, it hurts. It hurts other people. And so what happens in their younger years is they stop talking. And you see this oftentimes with men. Women who come to me with their Scorpio partner are like, oh my God, they always say that Scorpios are so emotional, but he never talks. He's so quiet. He keeps to himself. It's like, yeah, this is someone who's been socially conditioned to keep their mouth shut or they're going to be ostracized. Scorpio is they don't want to be socially ostracized because they're here to be intimate with people. Taurus is mine. Scorpio represents ours. It's always in contract with somebody. It rules contracts. It's the manufacturer. It's the company. Now, the way that they love is through truth. And so they need a partner who, when they go to those extreme places, because life sees to it that Scorpio has what could be considered traumatic or extreme circumstances and conditions. So they need someone who can withstand the emotional storms that Scorpio goes through without being negatively impacted. Another example that I'll use as it relates to Scorpio characters is if a Scorpio has been going through, let's say they have a divorce, they lost their job, their health is going down the drain, and they're recognizing that their life is falling apart. And they confide in a friend and they say, right now, I feel like committing suicide. Now this is heavy, but I think that this is true for Scorpios. The friend is probably going to say, what? No, they're not saying they're going to do it. They just say they feel like it. Most people will listen to that and say, don't do that. You need to see a psychologist. Like something is wrong with you. Someone who can be in bed with Scorpio will sit there and say, if I were you, I would feel that same way too. There is no avoidance of the truth. There is no avoidance of deep, dark emotions, of realities that all humans have to withstand. Scorpio seems to get all of the lessons, all of the tough lessons. Hence why they are the spiritual warrior. But they require in partnership somebody who isn't afraid to hear the truth, who isn't afraid to be intimate, who isn't afraid to see all sides of a person as they develop and grow, as they win, as they lose, as they soar, as they fall. Once a Scorpio knows that it's safe with you, that it can be itself with you and you won't run away or like shake in your boots, that's when the soft, loving side comes out. They are extreme cuddlers. They love cuddling, they love hugging, they love being intimate, they like spending quality time together. They are also incredibly ambitious and usually extremely successful because they have like an iron fist and a velvet glove. They know how to get shit done and they know how to place people in the right roles. They are like the master when it comes to organizing a company and making sure that things go as planned. They're on top of their shit and they make sure that you are also living up to your potential because oftentimes if they're in business with you, if they're hiring you, you are a reflection of them and their product or their service. And so they hold you to your highest potential as well. They are also soulful lovers. Like, I think they believe in soulmates. I think that they want that type of deep, unbreakable bond. They would die for you. And more than that, they would live for you. Now, let's talk about some deal breakers. As I said, they are here to examine pain and to embrace truth. So if you are someone who will fabricate peace just to feel comfortable, you're not going to get along with a Scorpio. If you are trying to be polite and you sacrifice honesty in your intimate relationship, then they will also not trust you. If you are always polished and clean and poised, then they will be a little weary of you because What aren't you showing them? And also, if you agree all of the time with whatever they're doing or whatever they're saying, they're going to be suspicious because they understand how human psychology works. If two people are getting along perfectly all the time and someone's not being honest, someone's not showing up, someone's not participating in the relationship, they want to wrestle with you sometimes. I'm not saying that these people love a fight, but they understand what it takes to be in an intimate, committed relationship with somebody. And full transparency, Scorpio, the eighth house, is the pinnacle of the arc of intimacy in astrology. And so it is programmed for partnership and it does want connectivity, but it's like a cactus. You know, like there's water inside, there's emotion inside, but you got to get through the pricks to get there. When someone has their sun in Sagittarius, we see a soul that comes to earth in effort to understand, accept, and love the other, whatever that means to them. And their job is to turn around and teach the rest of us how to understand, accept, and love the other. They want the world to feel bigger. That is a quality of Sagittarian love or Sagittarian energy, is if it's good, make it bigger. It's ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is the planet that is the same size as all the other planets combined, but it's filled with nothing but hot air. And so Sagittarius has this tendency from time to time to overpromise and underdeliver. And it's not because you just fall low on their list of priorities that they don't show up. It's that they want to say yes to everything. If they could, they would be everywhere at once, because they're stimulated that way. In order to understand other people, you have to subject yourself to multiple different situations. And this is why they also enjoy traveling, because there is this inner knowing or recognition of perspectives and how limited they can be. And so when they're traveling or they need to get away for a little bit, it's not just them needing a vacation and they're just running around, running away from responsibilities. They are actually doing soul work when they're out there. They're having conversations. They're learning about how other people operate in the world and what they believe and why they believe that. And so freedom is really important to a Sagittarius because it feeds their soul. It contributes to their motive to learn, accept, and love. Now, Sagittarius is a fire sign and it is Jupiter. So this is someone who feels really positive. They're optimistic, they're expansive, they're typically learned, they have a talent or skill, or there's just something that they know really well, and they seem to have, it's like they're born with this wise old man inside of them. They have wisdom to share with other people, and they often position themselves, low functioning, is like they're preaching at you, but they're a professor of sorts to the rest of us. Now, being the third fire sign, Sagittarius takes the ego that Aries has established, the personality that Leo has created and celebrated, and then goes, okay, I'm kind of done with the social thing. I'm ready for something bigger. What is the meaning of life? Why am I here? And so oftentimes they will subscribe to a specific belief system, a philosophy that they've learned, or they have some kind of religious background or religious association. And what you will see more often than not is that they grew up in an environment where certain beliefs were instilled in them. And there happens to be like an aha moment where they recognize either, yes, this is for me and I'm going to build on it, or, oh, I actually think that life works differently. Let me go and figure it out. Sagittarius has a reputation of being hesitant to commit. They like to keep their options open. And the main reason behind that is they're like a wild horse. They need to know that they can go anywhere, that they can explore anything at any time. And the idea of a relationship inherently means that there have to be boundaries somewhere. And they're like, what? Does that mean I have to stay in this stable? They tend to be extreme also. And so when things are presented to them, they'll take it to the fullest extreme. Oh, if I'm in a relationship, I'm just hanging out with you all day, and it makes them feel bound. And that goes against everything that they live for, everything that they stand for, everything that they're trying to accomplish. They have a big mission. They're a universally oriented sign. And so you can see why as soon as they think of relationship, it's like, no. But what I found is that Sagittarius characters are excellent in relationships, but so long as you are willing to be truthful and to have honest conversations about what the other person needs, and there needs to be a mutual respect and understanding for the other person's agenda. So if you are someone who is independent and you have your own hobbies and your own life going, then this should be a pretty easy match, because they do always come back. You know, they need to touch base. They need to come home. They're not like Gemini, where Gemini has no problem being homeless spiritually. Sagittarius likes a place where it can go back to rest. And so I think that they are good at relationships, but you can't cage them in. If they want to travel for a couple of weeks alone, you have to be able to manage your own insecurity and be like, you know what? I see what you're doing. I support you. Have fun. Have the best time of your life. If you want to be in constant communication with them, if you want to go with them everywhere, unless you're a wild horse too, then you guys can mob together. They just don't want to be stopped. So it's not that they don't like shared experiences. It's not that they need to be independent. They just need someone who's going to carry the same energy as them, because they are very much aware of how people are coming off, and they are sensitive to negative or low functioning energy. And so at the beginning of the relationship, they might tolerate it for a little bit, but they'll be very quick to just say, you know, it doesn't feel good. And they may even create distance and just start doing things by themselves. Another thing is that even when they are in relationships, they are still flirty and playful with other people, because they really just have so much energy and so much curiosity that they can spread themselves very thin. And it's not necessarily that they have more interest in somebody else. It's just like, oh, that's new. That's new. I haven't seen that before. Let me go talk to that. And so kind of having, I don't want to say thick skin, because they're not overtly disrespectful in my personal experience, but you will find them from time to time being flirtatious with somebody else. And it's like, okay, you know, have your fun. And you know when they cross the line, because they're not going to be quiet about it. All other aspects to the side. Pure Sagittarius energy is not going to be quiet about the disrespect. It'll be obvious. It'll be right in front of you. And it's important to remember that it is ruled by the element of fire. And so they need something to burn. They need something to do. If there's nothing to do, if there's nothing to explore, if there's nothing that they're working on that provides meaning and value, they are going to burn themselves out. And because they're so optimistic, they're going to forget what it feels like when they push themselves to that extreme, or when they're unstimulated in that way. So they can find themselves in that rut time and time again. But, you know, you got to feed the fire. Being a sign that's here to learn and understand life deeply and examine life deeply and make meaning of it, they appreciate someone who is also intelligent, someone who is focused on growing and learning and developing, because they want a stimulating conversation. They don't actually get off to always having power or always having authority. They want to feel like their partner is accelerating in their development with them. Again, like two wild horses running together is what they would like ideally. Some deal breakers for Sagittarius. One thing that will immediately turn them off and make them pissed off is if you're not being honest and they know it. If they have collected like evidence towards you, or if they've seen something firsthand, or if they just have a gut feeling that something is off and they confront you and you're nervous to own up to your own shit or to have an uncomfortable conversation, they're not going to like it. And the blessing is that it is a fire sign. So for the most part, they get hot really quickly, but they also want to go back to that positive charge really quickly. So their goal is to like, let's just put it out on the table. Like, what's going on right now? Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you're feeling so we can move past it. They don't want to stay in a dark place, especially in their relationships. Another thing that they don't like is, again, being held too tightly. It's like Sagittarius, even though, you know, it's not a water sign, it's like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter that you grasp it, it's just going to spill. It's a slippery lover. It has parallels to like the theory of money and abundance. It's a slippery lover. And so it comes to you and it stays with you so long as you are willing to share it. So if they come to you and you're wanting to hold them and keep them and you're just tight and tense, just like money, just like abundance, they're going to stop coming to you because they're for the streets. They're for the world. And so yes, you can't put a leash on a Sagittarius. You just have to trust that they will come home, and they will. Also, if you are inflexible, if you believe what you believe and you're unwilling to at least understand, the bare minimum is just understand. If you are unable to show that you can comprehend what they've learned and what they're integrating, then they're going to find you boring, stale, and unattractive. Another important quality is that they are spontaneous. Sometimes the fire is just lit at any hour of the day, and so they appreciate someone who is adventurous. For example, if you are laying in bed, it's like 3 a.m, and Sagittarius wakes up and goes, "Hey, do you want to go to Japan tomorrow?" The ideal partner is going to say, "Why don't we get up, make some coffee or make some tea, and let's talk about it." Now, someone who's not going to be a good match for Sagittarius is someone who dismisses the impetus to explore, who looks at them and says, "It's 3 a.m. We have responsibilities. What are you doing?" Contractual. It's someone who's tight, right? No. Entertain the inspiration. Let them see it. Sun in Scorpio, Sun in Sagittarius. You guys are sitting right next to each other on the zodiac belt, which means that you guys probably have flavors of the other sign. So for example, if you're a Sagittarius, you might have a Mercury in Scorpio. If you're a Scorpio, you might have a Mercury in Sagittarius. And this creates a level of understanding and connectivity that would not naturally be available to you. In fact, it would cause more friction without those placements being there. So to begin with, we have a water sign that's socially oriented and a fire sign that's universally oriented. And that's where the friction really lies, because Scorpio comes into this world and it's like, okay, I want to be intimate with you. I want you to get naked. I want to be inside of you. Let's merge. Let's become one. It's similar to Pisces, but Pisces is more romantic. It's like, please, let's escape together. Let's experience bliss and nirvana. Scorpio is like, no, like, I want to hear about how life fucked you over. I want to hear about what you do when your back is up against the wall. I want to know who you are to your animal instinct. That's how much they want to know you, and they want to know all of your secrets. They expect, like that is a form of intimacy for them. And it's hard for them to decide what is personal privacy, like as it relates to you. They can keep secrets, but it's hard for them to like suss out what is your private business and what should be shared in the relationship. And because it's a socially oriented sign, you may think that, it means that they need a lot of people. And I do find that they typically have like a handful of friends, or, enough friends that they can count on one hand. But I think that it's specifically related to intimate relationships. It wants partnership. It wants shared resources. Let's build a company together. Let's make every aspect of our lives come together. And Sagittarius is like, well, there are much bigger things in this world than partnership and sex and relationship. I'm trying to make meaning of life. I'm trying to build a philosophy. In fact, I need to be on the move, and I need to be traveling. I need to experience the other and make sense of that. That's my life mission. And so there is a pull there of Sagittarius wanting to explore and adventure and be bigger and brighter. And then there's Scorpio, who is wanting to contract, say no to life, because when it says yes, it gets fucked over. And Scorpio can kind of feel as if it's not a priority to Sagittarius, because Sagittarius has a very large appetite, and Scorpio is just one of those things that it is feasting on. And so, there's also this example that I use when I talk about water signs, where they're incredibly deep people. Let's say Scorpio is 8 feet deep and Sagittarius is 6 feet deep. No matter how much Sagittarius loves Scorpio, no matter how hard it bangs its head against the concrete floor, 6 feet is not 8 feet. There is a difference there. And Sagittarius doesn't have access to the emotional depths that Scorpio has. And so when Scorpio's really going through it in the thick of the night, again, you guys are right next to each other, so you may have each other's placements, which makes this possible. But if you don't, then what it can do for Scorpio is create this space that Sagittarius never touches. And it doesn't feel like it's in bed with someone's soul. It feels like it's in bed with somebody, who is just not there, not emotionally fulfilling, not spiritually aware and awakened and available. And so Scorpio can feel dissatisfied, and Sagittarius may feel kind of swallowed, or as if Scorpio is a little bit obsessive or focused on all of the wrong things. Sagittarius has a natural curiosity that pulls them in a lot of different directions, and Scorpio is known to be possessive and protective because, again, it's here for in-depth one-on-one relationships, and it wants to be fed emotions, and that's not something that Sagittarius generates on the regular. And Sagittarius may also feel like the relationship is lacking because it wants to say yes to the world, and Scorpio routinely says no. But if someone's Venus is in the other person's sign, or someone's Mercury is there, it will definitely soften this relationship. But I do see that this is the battle of Scorpio wanting to contract, Sagittarius wanting to expand, Scorpio wanting to say no and stay in one place and be fixed on what's happened and kind of become a depository for all the negative shit that goes wrong in the world, and Sagittarius wanting to release itself from that and wanting to make meaning of trauma so it can heal and then move forward. And so there are a lot of factors. It's like when they're both shining brightly, they tend to irritate each other, and it's in different ways. So Scorpio will irritate Sagittarius because Sagittarius looks at the way that Scorpio is behaving, and on some level it remembers what it's like to be in that space, and it doesn't want to go back. It has already pulled itself out of the trenches spiritually in so many ways, and it's not a pleasant place to be and live. And so it will feel as if the soul's being pulled back to learn lessons that it already mastered, and it won't like that. But Scorpio may feel stimulated by Sagittarius because Sagittarius is the remedy to all of Scorpio's problems. And so, Sagittarius may be mentoring Scorpio throughout their relationship, like imparting wisdom. I will also say that Sagittarius is a mutable sign, which means that it is porous when it is around you energetically. It can feel when someone is in a bad mood, and again, it's extreme. Sagittarius wants to feel really good all the time, and Scorpio is typically going through it, and in part because of their perspective on the world. And so Sagittarius, even though Scorpio's not talking, even though Scorpio's not venting, it could be silent. Scorpio can just be sitting there next to Sagittarius, and Sagittarius can feel it in their body that Scorpio is angry or, boiling something like beneath the surface, and it's like, when is the lid gonna pop off? I need a break from you, please. Like, can I go somewhere else? And Sagittarius will make plans because Scorpio's energy is so strong and intense. It's a lot for Sagittarius to manage. But I do think that this is a very fiery, passionate relationship, especially as it relates to like being in bed together, because Sagittarius is very handsy and animalistic, and Scorpio gets off to that. It likes being, torn apart and raw and sweaty and all of those things. And so I think that's one area that they get along. And if they were to come into this relationship with a little bit more curiosity and grace, that things could go really well, that they could balance each other out. Scorpio can teach Sagittarius how to love deeply, how to keep its flame even in the most extreme circumstances. It can make Sagittarius incredibly powerful and resilient. And at the same time, Sagittarius can teach Scorpio that, you can at any point in time take accountability and responsibility for what's happened to you, and you can start to create a new reality. You can start to manifest a new reality. And because these two are living completely different realities in their day-to-day life, by being around each other all the time, they kind of stand as a living testament to the possibilities of what life can look like and how it can manifest for people. And I just think it'd be so interesting to be there at dinner with them and, everything be going wrong, and Sagittarius kind of laughing, being like, man, I guess we shouldn't have been here. And Scorpio just on fire, so pissed that every single time their food is fucked up. And, and they're just like looking at each other like, like you genuinely don't get me, or like don't understand this at all. But I think that your moon placements definitely matter. Mercury definitely matters, and Venus matters. This is just what immediately comes to my mind. I see two intensely different characters trying to coexist. We're rolling the dice here. It could go either way. So this is immediately what comes to my mind. If you would like to learn more or work one-on-one with me, you can find me at wellandrising.com/services. Toodles.